This is chapter 3.
Chapter 3.
Chapter 3. You guys just did your first deployment. You guys call it pump?
Yeah, pump, push, a cruise, a deployment, rotation.
All right, and that was in Iraq.
It's in Iraq.
June 28th just happened.
Yep, so we're at 2005 now.
You stopped by Germany.
Yep, stopped by Germany for a month or so. Yep.
Parents are proud. Just got back from your first deployment. How was that coming back?
Kind of surreal because you lose track of what's happening in the real world. Like what's in popular culture, what movies, what TV shows, what famous actor died, and all this other stuff. You get home, the things people are talking about, you have no real context to.
Playing catch up?
Yeah, I mean, and you gotta understand, like, the internet was new-ish in 2005. Like, social media wasn't a thing, all of that. And then even if it was, you didn't have an internet connection, or there wasn't a lot of time for you just to sit there. I don't even think YouTube was around. I don't think any of those platforms were around. So when you got on there, you'd log into like Yahoo News. You'd read that and then you'd get off of it. Right? Like you'd check your email, personal email if you had one, and then you just off the internet. A lot of that stuff you never got. You never got newspapers or anything, like your parents would send you clips, or some people would get mailed in newspapers. I mean, they're weeks or months old at that point, but I mean, yeah, you're pretty isolated. And then it was weird, like the things that people would talk about and complain about, they were just so small in comparison to the stuff you've been dealing with, and the loss and the pressure, and just not knowing what tomorrow's going to bring. And you look at these people and you kind of see them as like sheep. Like that's what you're concerned with right now. And then for me personally, because I'm an idealist, I was really offended with the amount of people that were talking shit about Bush.
Right.
In the whole Iraq campaign. And even to this day, it still pisses me off.
Yeah.
I don't have to get into the reasons why we went there. I don't give a shit. None of it mattered to me. I didn't care. If we would have deployed to Jordan, I wouldn't have cared. Like wherever. I just want to deploy. I want to serve my country. I want to do what we need to do. And once you got over there, if you've never been to Iraq and you're basing our presence in Iraq off what you read on the news, just stop. None of that mattered. Just didn't.
Having been there, was it a pretty big difference than what was being reported? What's actually going on in Iraq on the ground?
Yes and no.
Okay.
I mean, like when you first get over there, like WMDs are all everybody talks about it. I feel like that was a match strike. It was out before it even really got ignited, and nobody gave a shit. I never once cared about WMDs. I didn't care. If they're there or not, I don't care. And I think a lot of that was self-justification, because you hear from the old guys, like you had all these threats coming out of Afghanistan and all these other, organizations, Al Qaeda, and they're going to attack the U.S. and then they do, and you see it. You're like, well, you've got the exact same thing, and now you've got this dude in Iraq who's been gassing Kurds and all these other people for decades, and he's killed millions of people. It's like, well, now he's saying he's going to attack us. We ain't going to let that shit happen again. We're going to go send it. Yep. So for me, I thought it was righteous the entire time. And I never had 1 ounce of hesitation. Why we're there for the right reasons. Like, I'm there because you told me to go, and I want to go anyway. And once you got there, you realize that if all of that would have been fictitious, if insurgency wasn't happening, if terrorists weren't actually there, then we wouldn't be fighting. They wouldn't be blowing us up. They wouldn't be advancing their tactics and TTPs over and over and over, and they were. Like they were trying to get their jihad on, and we just gave them a reason because we were there. So, regardless of what your political views are or not, they're still trying to kill you.
And that was in 05, right?
Yeah.
04, 05 was your first one. Was that around the time they were starting to come out with what was it called? The formed IEDs that would pierce through armor?
Oh yeah, those things? EFPs.
EFPs.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm sure that was nerve-wracking.
Yeah, it's like a big shape charge. So it blows through this huge copper slug right through the side of the Humvees. I had a buddy in 2007. He's still active right now. Took one to the thigh and killed his whole leg. Had to get it amputated later.
Oh, wow.
But I mean, they were gnarly, dude. I mean, they're blowing right through Humvees, right through multiple people. I mean, you can't stop them. And they set them up on triggers, pressure plates, command detonated. They had IR sensors. They had all kinds of weird shit, dude. You're driving through and you scan these things with some IR beam and it initiates and boom.
Damn.
Can't do anything for it. Like back then, we didn't even have doors on Humvees.
Yeah.
It's like if they hit you, then you're hosed.
That's it.
Yep.
Your friend's still active, you said?
Mm-hmm.
No way.
Mm-hmm.
Is he Navy?
Yeah, he's a team guy.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, 2007 deployment. Took an EFP right to the thigh.
How long has he been in?
He went to buds with me.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
dude.
badass.
Oh, dude, he's a stud.
Is he out here in...
East Coast. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I have to bring him by one day.
Wow. That's something.
Mm-hmm. Oh, he's harder than woodpecker lips, dude.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. When you got back and you said that, things that civilians were stressing over, it seems so insignificant, right? Has that kind of skewed your views towards people in general who weren't into teams?
Kind of.
Yeah.
Because a lot of them, they would arbitrarily say things that they didn't realize would trigger you or offend you. Like if people didn't know what you did, Virginia Beach is very different. San Diego is very different. Really patriotic countries have a huge military and all that kind of stuff. It's different. But in Virginia Beach, you would hear people badmouth the Iraq War and our presence over there. And I can't believe we're doing this. And, all these poor soldiers that are getting killed. And what do you want us to do? Sit here and let it happen again? Like, what do you want us to do? Pretend like it's not going to happen? Or just, call their bluff? Like, well, you don't think he'll do it? I mean, is that a chance you're willing to take?
You want to find out.
I don't want to find out.
Yep.
No, I don't want to do that again. It's like getting into a street fight. Like, okay, you just hit me first. Like, what? No, we're not doing that. I'm going on the offensive.
Yeah.
Always on the offensive.
Always on the offensive.
Got to push. Got to push.
Very
Got to
nice.
push.
Yeah.
That's why you got the hat on. Always on the offensive. Got to push.
Yeah.
And so you get points on the board on the offensive. You always take a defensive posture. You're always on your heels.
Yep.
You're always waiting to step back. You got to lean forward a little bit. You're gonna have to push.
Nip it in the bud.
Yeah.
Yeah. So coming back, you're already here. Got your warm welcome. You mentioned in the last episode that you had to talk to the families of the guys that perished, 628, and you were received because you and a few guys were kind of like the one of the wives, basically.
Yeah.
How did that relationship happen?
I think by proximity more than anything. I didn't have
Right.
anything tying me down. Didn't have a girlfriend. Didn't have a wife. Didn't have any kids. It's like, what do you do? They kind of just adopted you. And I feel like we were just always over there. Always. Always having dinner, getting brunch in the morning. Saturdays and Sundays we're always with a big group and dragging them out. Team guys would go over and babysit. Like, hey, we're going out to Hot Tuna. We're all going to go out and get a couple drinks just to get them out. I'm not trying to get them to move on, but, let's get out.
Mm-hmm.
Let's laugh a little bit. Let's
Yeah.
have a little bit of fun. Get a cocktail in you. Let's relax. Like, the worst is behind us right now. Like, how are we going to move forward in a positive manner every step? And sometimes you just need some people around you that are going to get you out of your comfort zone just a little bit. Like, it's all about the chicks that's going to drink.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really feel like it. I know you don't feel like it. Let's go. Like, we're all going. Let's go. Sit in here? Okay, we'll go. And they go out and they have a great time.
Right.
It's like, there's just one more little win. One more little micro win. Okay, they went out. Girls go out and grab them. Hey, we're going to get our hair and nails done. Go send it.
Right.
Go. Like, you know what I mean? Keep living. Go to the gym. We had Laura McGreevy called up one night and she's like, hey, I'm thinking about running a half marathon. Okay. She's like, I don't have anybody to run with me. I mean, back in the day, we used to drink quite a bit and I was drunk as a skunk and I was like, I'll send it. She's like, you will? I was like, yeah, I'll go. I had to borrow somebody's running shoes, showed up drunk as shit. And she wanted to run a really fast pace and I paced her the whole way. Let's go. Actually, me and Cole ran it with her.
Yeah.
Yep. Showed up and ran her the entire. I forget what she wanted to run, but it was, a half marathon at an 8-minute mile or something like that, and we were in really good physical shape.
Flying.
And, yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Just cruise that entire thing, and small wins. They're just trying to be there, just trying to show your support however you can.
Yeah.
The smallest little things matter. Texts on the anniversary, texts on Christmas, texts on Thanksgiving. His birthday, her birthday, thinking about you guys. Just small things like that. Just let them know that however many days are between flash and bang, we have not forgotten.
Yeah.
We do the exact same thing for we go on deployment. Okay, we're leaving on Tuesday, blah, blah, blah. Like, we're thinking about you. Mm-hmm. Like, I want you to know no matter what happens to me, I am thinking about you. And I think the small things matter. Do they really? If you ask them, I don't know. But to us, they matter. At least you're putting forth the effort. Let you know that we didn't die in vain. Like, we are going to kill as many of these people as humanly possible. I don't care if it's a different continent, a different country. It doesn't matter to us. Enemy's the enemy. Yeah. And if we can get one small little victory and stack it up in a win column.
I guess developing that kind of a relationship with the wives, it's like bonding through trauma.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, shared trauma.
Shared trauma. Because they get it. You get it. Yeah. That must be really tough, especially if you know the dudes that passed away. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and then a lot of it, and this is just me, a lot of it is because you didn't have such a strong relationship with the guys you lost because they were more senior to you, they were in a different platoon. But by connecting with the wives, it's one step closer to them.
Yeah.
Like I don't have the forged memories that a lot of the dudes that got to work with them do. But now because we're so close to the live network, I feel like I know them better. And for us, it made you feel better. It made me feel like I'm more connected. Like I didn't get to spend, years with your husband, but I've got to spend a shit ton of time with you, and I feel like I know him better now. I feel like I feel the loss, not as much as you do, but I feel it more than I did 6 months ago. Every time I get a dinner with you, every time we get to come out here and we go to the beach, we do whatever else, I feel more connected to you.
Get an understanding.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's how you met Patsy?
Yeah. I mean, that was after my second deployment. We came back, and that's how we met. So
we can get to that later.
Yeah, I mean, Danny died in 2005. I didn't meet Patsy until 2008.
Gotcha.
I mean, it was a long time.
Yeah. So after coming back, do you guys do another workup immediately?
Right back into it. I mean, you land, I think there's a grace period of like a week or two. Everybody kind of goes off. You're working like banker's hours. You're doing fitness. You're changing guns. Guys that are leaving the team leave the team. New guys are checking in. And then we all convene on, a Monday. Now we all basically start up. These are new platoons. Who's your new platoon chief, new OIC. These are all the different players. These are all the, your leading petty officer, like your senior enlisted dude and everybody else. And like I didn't have any schools. We checked in. So it's like, what do you want to do? It's like, I want to be a breacher more than anything on this world right now. This is what I want. Got to go to breacher school and a couple other things. And yeah, then you really just start honing in on whatever that skill set is. So the only thing I cared about going to my second rotation was breaching and CQB. That was it.
Do you guys change platoon chiefs after every deployment?
Yep.
Is that standard?
Mm-hmm.
Is it? And do you guys shift platoons or squads or?
You try to keep the core together, but sometimes you have to. Like if you were a sniper and we're fleeting back up and there's already 4 snipers in there and Delta platoon doesn't have one, they might pull you and shift you over, and depending on who you are and how important you are to this platoon, there's a serious void. And it sucks, dude.
It's like being separated from your buddies.
Yeah.
Right?
Now with a brand new group of guys, I mean, you're saying like it's so small inside of that team. I mean, you know everybody by a first name basis. You don't get to work with them. Like you'll go off to, Kentucky to do a 2-week training trip. They go to Nevada. They come home, you come home the same day, and you flip-flop. You go there, they go there. And this other platoon comes in, and you just, it's like it's a Rubik's Cube. Just always moving, shaking.
Mm. Yeah. What attracted you to becoming a breacher?
I had a bunch of breachers in my first platoon, and I really think Drago, it was something cool because every time he would get up and brief or the breachers would go, they're the ones who can get you inside the compound. They're dealing with the gates, the doors, the windows, anything that comes up. They're the ones handling the whole scene. I mean, everybody's a breacher at a certain extent. I mean, carrying manual tools and whatever else, but like they're running the whole scene. So they're looking at the target. What's the door? What's the thickness? What's it made out of? Inward opening, outward opening. Is there a storm door on? Is there glass attached? How are they going to get in? Are we doing it quiet? Are we going loud right out of the gate? Just all the different variables. And you got them watch them go through their process. It was so meticulous, but it was so violent in nature. I loved it. My dad was a big demo guy anyway, so I grew up on all those demo ranges. And yeah, there's something about handling high explosives that's very intriguing to most people. And when you get to see how surgical you can be with it and how unconventional you could be, that's where I really excelled. I loved it. I hated going to breacher school because I hated the math portion, the charge calc. Like, I don't like math. I don't like school. I don't like being a student. I like being a student of human moves. I learn more from just watching people do their thing and asking questions than I ever do sitting there watching a PowerPoint and having to take tests. Just not how I'm wired. And I thought breacher school was a perfect combination of CQB focus, advanced problem solving, utilizing demo, all the manual tools, chainsaws, quickie saws, pry bars, everything. I just needed you to attack this one thing. And then once I started to elevate up my game and I started to see different schools of thought, different methodology, you really look at this whole structure and you're like, oh my God, that door looks like Castle Grayskull. And then once you understand reality, like, the only thing holding Castle Grayskull together is 6 screws that are about 3 to 4 inches into the throw, and a little piece of plywood about 3/4 of an inch into the throw. If I just defeat that 1 3/4 inch piece of plywood, the whole thing opens.
Opens up.
So I don't need to go crazy. I mean, I've got a shit ton of real world breaches, and once I really kind of got into the methodology behind it, you don't need to go explosive.
Was that a preference for you?
It showed levels to it.
Yeah.
Anybody can just slap a charge on and blow it. It's very different when you go over there under the cover of darkness, under night vision. You can advance problem solve and you're like, blow it. Nope. Pull out a pry bar. Open the door. I'm like, damn, that was slick.
Doorknob's unlocked.
Yeah, brother. Yeah. Don't make it harder than it needs to be.
Yeah. So that workup is how long?
What did say 18 months-ish. So we got a 6-month block of nothing but school. So breacher school, static line jump master, whatever you're going to go to. And then once all that ends, everybody comes together. Now we reform as a platoon, and now we're going to go out and do training blocks. So CQB, you have diving, you have mobility, you have land warfare, you have all these other different blocks you do, and they're all consecutive. And now if you basically line out, call it 10 for round numbers, there's 10 individual training blocks. You start at this one, they start at number 7. They start working back, you start working forward. This guy starts at block 10, they go to block 1, now you all bounce back and forth. So everybody's doing the exact same training block, the same exact cadre, the same mission set. We're all training for the exact same thing regardless of where you're going, because you never really know until you're about to go. So everybody's doing the exact same training. This time, it was so much more beneficial because you knew what the end state was. I've done all the compound assaults. I've done the ground mobility. I've done all the packages. I've seen the intel. I've watched the ISR. I've seen the guys. And now I feel like I have a pretty good grasp of reality and what it needs to look like. And now on this one, it was so much different. I felt like the cadre were better because the guys who have done a couple rotations now they're in the cadre. Now they're at trade it. Now they're pushing out information. They're leading with a why. They're sharing war stories. And now it connects to reality. You're like, okay, dude. Okay, now I get it. The CQB the second time through was so much better, dude. Because now you were confident, you were really pushing the envelope. You understood the importance of the flat range and connecting to CQB and the footwork and reading body language, all of it. Like now it's an art and now you get it. And you're like, okay, now we're an unconstrained force in this scenario. How can I shape the tactics and TTPs to solve for that? Got to do it more. Just more and more and more. And by the time we hit our second deployment, we had a phenomenal crew. My God, it was humbling. It was super surreal when you see the amount of talent you go in there, and if you look down the list, just how many of those guys went off to do super amazing things. How many guys we've lost that were in that second rotation. It's really cool to see, man. But I think my second rotation is really what made me fall in love with the organization, the mission set, all of it. By the time we got over the second time, it was like, oh my God, I can't believe you pay me to do this. But that's when I kind of coined a phrase like, I'd pay money to do this fucking job. Like this is heaven on earth. And we found out pretty quickly that we were going back to Iraq. So now we know. Like everything was popping off then. Now we're going to work up in 2006 and everything's going off in Ramadi and Mosul and all these other things. And you're hearing about it and you're like, God damn, can we just deploy early? Like, how do we get there right now? Does anybody need an augment? And that's when those things started to happen. Like, does SEAL Team 8 need anybody? Does Team 4 need anybody? Like, I'll go right now. Like, I'll skip all this bullshit and I'll just go over and deploy. And some guys got to. Mm-hmm. But it's really the corpsmen, the comm guys, the JTAC, the guys calling for fire. Those guys had the specialty skill set. A couple snipers, but that was my joke. Does anybody need a static line breacher? Anybody? I'm like, no, I think we're good. I'm like, God damn it. Okay.
Picked the wrong job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to be a breacher until you realize there's quite a few of them. Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. We just had a great group of dudes. Had a bunch of Mustang officers that came in. They were probably on a list of guys that have fleeted up. And we had 2 powerhouses, man.
Is that what Mustang means?
Yeah.
Okay.
And they were everything you ever wanted. They were perfect. Our LPOs were terrific. We got, you heard me talk about Matty Roberts from that deployment. We got him. So he was in Echo Platoon, one of the survivors from June 28th. We got him in. And that was one of the coolest things for me because he was so scary. And he was so intimidating. He didn't say shit, but he was big. And he was fucking mean. Like, I used to call him Bam Bam. Bad attitude Matt. Like, just, he walked around with just this look on his face like he is going to fucking kill you. And he wouldn't break character. And it wasn't his character, it's just how he is. And he was so jaded by losing all the guys, whether he'll admit it or not. It was hard to crack him. And he never talked about it. We had still never had a debrief, ever. He never spoke about it. We talk about, you know, what happened on the ground. He'd never weigh in on a conversation. He'd get up and leave. I'm like, God, I just want to know more about this dude. And he was a breacher and a very, very good one, really good at CQB. And I really looked up to him. Like, he was the dude I needed more than anything at that moment. And I was so glad we had him. And it felt like we had a connection with June 20th because we had him. And I had such an immense pride in that dude being in that platoon. Because it's like, we weren't there. You know, we tried to take care of the wives, we tried to show support, but I was in Iraq, you guys were in Afghanistan, but now we have that dude. And now it's our full mission in life is to support him as much as humanly possible, because I can only imagine what he's going through. But we're gonna wrap him in a cloak of fucking armor. Like, nothing's gonna happen to that guy. And I'm sure guys admit it now, but a lot of dudes worshipped him. I did. I looked at him and I was like, that's the finished article. If I could hang my hat and I could be as good as that dude, I'm fucking done. That is it. That is all I ever wanted to be. And he didn't disappoint, man. He was really cool.
Did he not go in a helo, or
he went on a second helo?
He was on a second helo.
Mm-hmm. So he watched the whole thing happen.
Oh wow.
Yeah, man.
I guess that's enough to get you to be the way he is.
Yeah. I mean, he was violent and aggressive before then, but so much more so now. I just wouldn't speak. It made you feel uncomfortable. It's kind of like going to the pound. You see all these dogs and their tails are wagging. You get to the corner. It's that dog where some piece of shit's been feeding him gunshot powder and his eyes are glassed over and he's just staring at the cage and you are not about to put your hand in it. That was Matt. You know, you are not about to fuck with that dude. Not a chance. And we had some serious... I don't even know how to phrase it. We were very protective of him, Matt. Like, we would never let nobody would ever talk shit about him anyway, but some people definitely raised the concern that they are not ready to go. They might not be ready to do this thing with enough reservation to do it above board. And that was a definite concern with Matt, not for any of us. Anytime anybody would raise anything like, how's Matty doing? He's fucking awesome. Like, you sure? I am fucking positive. Don't worry about him. He is good. And he had a watchful eye. All the guys did. And rightfully so to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Like, half their platoon just got killed in, bloodlust. Like, they want to kill everybody. It's like, now you just got to keep them in between the lane robes.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Good?
Yep.
So after doing a lot of workups, moving on to your second deployment.
Yeah, we basically repeat the entire cycle. Now we know we're going to go. So everybody really dives in like the last 6 months. we were going to relieve Team 4. Now they split us up, so now everybody's on their independent cycle. So we're going to relieve Team 4, and we all fly over. And you typically do like a turnover op. So as the guys in 4 are ripping out, they leave a platoon plus. Senior leaders, the lead nav, the lead breachers, snipers, all those guys, they leave those guys there. Then you roll in, and they basically accompany you on the first couple ops. This is what the battlefield geometry is like. This is what the roads are like. This is what the target sets are like. All the different pieces. This is where Chow is, Gem, all that kind of stuff. You do a couple ops with them. And one of the very first nights we were there, probably there maybe a week, and that's when Clark Schwedler got killed. Mike Day got shot like 27 times.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a shit show. One of our corpsmen got shot and got medically retired because of it. And that was a super surreal moment, man. We were all in our hooches. It was late, like they went out, but they'd been going out over and over. And it was our sister platoon that went out that night. And we had some partner force guys with us. We had an army element from the Iraqis, and we had a police element. It was like their SWAT team. So we'd rotate who we were going to go out with. And they went out that night, and never forget, man, I was laying in bed, and Cole comes in there and blows in my door and grabs me. He's like, hey, they got a man down. They got a what? Like, they just lost a dude. And I was like, who fucking lost? Like, it's so foreign to me to think that someone just died. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, I was in buds with Clark. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, Clark Schwedler just died. When? Like, right fucking now. The ISR feeds up. He's like, somebody else is shot up real bad. I don't know if he's going to make it. Okay. Give me a minute. I'd laid back in bed, and I probably laid there for 10 minutes. I'm like, there is no fucking way. Like, I just saw that dude. Like, we were just watching Napoleon Dynamite 2 hours ago. Like, what do you mean he's dead? And it was hard to wrap your head around, because he was such a good dude. Everybody loved him. He was life of the party. Super great guy. And they came back and met him in their ready room. Like, we all run out, all the Humvees pull up, and we're jumping on top of them, ripping the 50 cals off, ripping off the twin 240s, just trying to help however we can, just try to get those guys in there. And God damn, man. They were in the ready room, still had all their kit on, just covered in blood. And one of the dudes is on his knees, and he's got towels, and he's scooping all the shit out of Clarky's helmet, just all the blood and everything else that's in there. And there's a single round, a hole through his chin strap, right where it hit him, and came through the other side. Quick, in and out. And you start to hear the story, they start to kind of tell it, and it's so emotionally charged, you can't decipher what has actually happened, because there's so many people talking at the exact same time. They're jumping over each other, like, fuck you, that's not what happened, this is what happened.
Right.
Like, you don't want to weigh in, you're just trying to absorb information, and it was so hard for those guys to compartmentalize that. And I can only imagine, because they're supposed to be flying home in 24, 48 hours. I mean, it's over.
Wow.
You're supposed to be done. And it was a turnover off. They just kept him because he was a good dude, and I think he was a lead nav. And God damn, man. Like, right now, so we had to do a memorial service. And I'll never forget, dude, we were setting to memorial service right there outside of Fallujah. And Kyle Milliken sitting next to me, and, you know, all the guys are getting up there talking about Clark and what a good dude he was and all this kind of shit. And he leaned over and he bumped me, and he's like, do you ever think about what they'd say about you? Yeah. And he goes, I do not want to waste this opportunity. I do not want to get killed on some bullshit target. Like, we got to do this one right. He goes, playing for keeps now. And we were very fortunate on that first deployment, got very, very lucky. No one got, jammed up. Nobody got super hurt on their deployment. Now it's this one. Now, right out of the gate, it's already started. Those guys have already been in a string of firefights, and now we're on the exact same target set. So now we know the very first time we go out, like, we are going to be in the fucking hornet's nest, dude. Now we know. And it felt like on the first deployment, it took a couple weeks, if not a couple months, to really kind of wrap your head around what the actual threat was. Now you didn't have to. Now it was already there. Now Spidey sensors are at a complete 10.
Yeah.
Internet still shit. Wi-Fi's, no cell phones, the whole thing. And now the only thing you have is the group. You just have the mission set, you have the group, there's nothing else. You don't have family, you're not calling back. I mean, I'd probably call back once every 3 weeks, maybe. On an Iridium, 5 minutes. I'm still alive. Hang up the phone, go back out, gear it back up, gear it back up. And it was such a good deployment because you had a bunch of assets. You had all kinds of helos. You had the ground assault. You had everything else. And you had just a string. Because now, we've been here since 2003. Now it's 2007. And they just have a laundry list of targets that are good. Like, these ones are proven. Like, we've been hitting the same cell over and over. And every time we do, gunfight after gunfight. We got suicide bombers. They've got this. They've got that. Like, okay. And every time you went out, it felt so much more righteous than it did on the first one. Because now every time you go in, there's guns, there's grenades, there's suicide vests, there's bomb-making material, there's money, there's just all kinds of shit. And you're like, oh, okay, dude. Here we go. There's no doubt now. These guys are real players. You start seeing all the Iranians coming in and all these other foreign fighters. And you're like, oh, these dudes are gearing up. Okay. And it really just helped everybody kind of flick the switch. Because a lot of times when you hit benign targets or dry holes, you get that sense of complacency. Like, it's not going to happen to me. It's not my reality. Well, now it's a guarantee now. Are they going to get me before we get them? And I feel like it really locked everybody in. The mission planning was so much more focused from everything. The infill, the exfil, the actions on, everything in between was just really, really polished now. And we had a group of true believers. And it was super cool to see. The guys who were in Baghdad, Nick, Jack, Dave, Fagio, they basically took all of our 9 new guys and split them in half. 5 went here, 4 went there. And you got to hear what they were doing, and they were banging away, dude. They were crushing shit in Baghdad. And we were too, and it was phenomenal, dude.
So, your second deployment, you were in
Fallujah.
First one was Baghdad. And it's a little bit, would you say, hotter than the first one?
Yeah.
Right?
And anytime you do a summertime deployment, it's naturally going to be more exciting. The winter deployments, a lot of guys don't want to fight. I mean, it gets cold in Iraq.
Yeah.
So a lot of guys are all sleeping inside. On the summertime, so all sleeping on the roofs, and they've got guns next to them. They've got AK, so if they hear you, they just jump on top of the roof and start fighting away. In the wintertime, they're all inside, cozied up in their beds. So a lot of times you grab them while they're sleeping. You know, it's a lot easier to do that. It's a lot safer to do that. But if they're willing to fight, you know, it is what it is.
What was your main mission set? Your second deployment, was it still direct action?
Yeah, direct action, all direct action. There was no PSD, there was nothing else. All we're doing is hitting targets.
Just finding dudes.
Yeah. Running down cells, find out who's at the top, who's at the bottom, and get everybody in between. Get them as fast as you can. It was great, man.
Do you have an example of, would you say would be like the most notorious one on your list during the whole deployment, second time around?
So the people that got in a gunfight that killed Clark and shot up Mike, those guys had actually they either shot down or a Marine bird crash landed and ended up killing everybody on board and stole all their gear. So that's something not a lot of people talk about. When Clark and those guys got shot that night, or maybe it was the night before, one of them, the dudes ran outside and they were in full military fatigues with body armor, with guns, with ACOGs, with lasers, with helmets with night vision, the whole thing. And there was this is my interpretation of a secondhand story, but from the guys who were there, they go to make the assault. A dude walks on the front porch and he's got military shit on. And there's like a hesitation, like, what the fuck? And then he turns broadside and they saw this huge ass beard and they dumped him. And then the whole firefight ensued. Like, those guys are shooting 5.56 back at us. We're shooting 5.56 back at them. But basically that cell that took that bird down, that got in that gunfight, they were still continuing. The majority of that cell was still alive. So we were like, we are going all in on killing those people. That's all we want to do is hunt them down. And once we got on that target set, it was just every night, just banging away. So they were in a little town called Karma that wasn't too far from us. So we did a long drive in. We did helo assaults. Just every time we went in, we were getting gunfights. And that was my first taste of reality for how far people are willing to go. And there were some superhuman moves that happened on that night. But Maddie was in my same element that night. Had a bunch of dudes, and they would give you time after a couple rotations. They would take some of the junior guys and fleet you up to be like an assault team leader. So you're doing the brief, you're coming up with the plan, they're sanity checking, they're going to let you execute it. If anything goes wrong, the platoon chief or LPO would step in and take over, but for a lot of it's supposed to be like a softball. I think we did a helo assault. If we didn't, we drove in, we walked a long ass way. I remember a long walk in and it sucked. And we're walking on this long road, and there's a house right here, and then just past it, maybe 150 yards, there's another house. That's the target house. And we got about 100 yards away from this first structure, and everything stood up on the back of your neck. All the hair, all the hair on your arms raised up. You're like, what the fuck is happening to me? It felt like, I'll date myself with a movie reference, The Highlander. With the quickening, you could feel it.
You can feel it.
Oh, shit. We're walking into a fucking ambush, boys. And for whatever reason, we broke 3 or 4 guys off, and there were sleepers in that courtyard. It wasn't even a full wall. They were basically sleeping right outside on cots or little bedrolls, and they wrap them all up, and they're all Iranian. And it's like, oh, shit. What they didn't tell us is we had an ISR that was looking at our target. So when we infilled, we're on our walk in, one of these dudes got up and ran over to that building, ran up onto the roof, and woke the guys up and said something to them. They shifted the focus from there back on this house and watched him walk back, and they steady stared on here and took eyes off the main target. Mm-hmm. That was a huge fault on them. Hindsight being 2020, we never should have taken eyes off that. If we had 2 sensors, we could have broken it up a little bit, but you take eyes off that, put eyes on this. And what we missed in translation, I guess we had a secondary asset that wasn't giving us communication. When that dude left, if I remember correctly, there were 3 or 4 guys on the roof. One of the guys got up, and there was a cupola, basically a stairwell that opened up to a flat roof. It just basically a big hole you just pop up. And they had sandbags laid all down. They were behind sandbags aimed at the cupola. Mm-hmm. So when you walk up, the first thing you meet is them. And one of the guys stood up, and this is all secondhand information after the targets actually come down. So don't think I knew this when we went in. So we're making the approach up. They take those guys down. We're on the walk, and we get about 50 yards out, and everybody goes from trained on the door to trained on the roof. No one said anything. It just everybody simultaneously knew there was something happening on that roof. You couldn't see anybody.
Right.
Just from where the roof was, probably like a 3-foot ledge, so you couldn't see anything. It just looked like a compound wall on top of the roof. Mm-hmm. They were all laid down in the prone, aimed right at that thing. And one of the guys had taken off a suicide vest and draped it right in front of the stairs and ran a command wire back and was sitting there like this, just waiting. The other guy was on a PKM, guys with grenades and AKs and the whole thing, and they're just waiting for you to come up these stairs. So we get there, we just kind of fanning out. I'm messing with the front door. I get in nice and quiet, pop this thing, we make entry, super quiet entry, and I beeline straight for the stairs. I don't know why I went straight for the stairs. There was nothing really driving us to the stairs, just something told you got to go for the stairs. Went straight up, and it kind of doubled back on itself. So you had stairs that came up, a flat little landing, and then up onto the roof. So as you panned it, you could see just this void. And for people that do a lot of work on night vision, you'll understand this. When there is no illume out, 0, not an ounce of moonlight, those nods do not work. Yeah. It looks like you're looking through TV static. Just grainy, just gristly shit. You can't make out anything. And I'm walking up these stairs super, super slow, super, super slow. And I basically crouched down. I'm probably 3 steps from the top. And if you call this the cupola, the actual floor, my head's right here, and I'm going to pop up and clear the immediate, basically collapse my sector and then make movement. And this next part's really important. I didn't know there was anybody on that roof. I was anticipating there was to be someone on that roof, but I wasn't 100% sure. And when I popped, my head never really crested the top of the roof. It was basically, I just represented myself at a 45, and there was a dude standing from me to you who ran at a full sprint, no shoes on, blue track pants, I believe he had a wife beater on or some kind of white t-shirt, and was running at full speed with a pistol. Boom, 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 boom. Unloaded. I unloaded into him, and I hit bolt lock. So probably got off 4 to 5 rounds. Boom, 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 boom. Basically like a quarter bill drill. Yeah. Ran that thing, click instead of a bang. And we had a guy behind me. His name is Mark Weiss. He was a Mustang officer. Or he was going to be still enlisted, but he'd been in Afghanistan. He was one of the guys sitting in Germany. So when June 28th happened, they surged forward. So he'd been with those guys. He already had 2 platoons. He's a very experienced dude. And a super, super great guy. He said, never forget it, he said, fall back. That had never been a call I had ever heard before. We had never practiced that in training. It was always pushed. It was never a fallback like, oh, it's overwhelming, let's fall back and regroup. That's never been a thing. And I most certainly didn't make that call. He did from like 6 guys back. And we did. Boom, boom, boom. Bolt lock, fall back, and just drop. And as soon as you did, you were moan across the top. I was like, holy fuck. Mm-hmm. We go running out the backside, and for whatever reason, we skirt all the way around the building. And just in time, one of the guys on the roof had jumped off and was sprinting to another piece of cover and had an AK in his hand, and we dumped him. And right when we did, we heard the rooftop crack off again. We're like, holy shit. We run back over to basically primary entry. Just if you're standing at the front of the house, now we're on the right-hand side of the house, back of the front door, and you can hear them rustling up in there. And I look over my platoon chief, and I was like, I'm prepping frags, send it. Frag out, make the call, lobbing frags on top of the roof. It's probably me and 3 or 4 of the guys. We probably launch probably 6 frags on there, and nothing. Don't hear anything, don't hear them gurgling, don't hear them screaming. It's not like in the movies. And it was the first frag I ever threw in real combat. I threw a bunch of them, and it's not doing anything. We don't know there's sandbags on it. We don't know shit. It's not giving you what you want. And then you hear boom, boom, boom. They were throwing grenades off the roof, and it landed right in between my platoon chief, our comms guy, our terp, and they all got fragged right out of the gate. We've been on this target for like 4 minutes. 3 dudes fragged. And now we're essentially kind of pinned down. Mark has the ingenious idea of doing a modified call-out, which wasn't a thing back then. When we ran around the side and we dumped that dude that was moving to position to cover, there were 3 or 4 guys that were sleeping on the ground, and he grabs the first one and holds him up, and, you know, younger, mid-20s, something like that, and he speaks English. And he grabs the other terp who's not, and he's like, ask him if he knows who's on the roof. And he said, yeah, it's his cousin. He's like, I want you to walk upstairs and tell him to stop shooting, drop his gun, and come down here. I don't know why he said that, but he did. And I was like, let's try it. Launches that dude up the stairs, and the whole time he's walking, he's like, you know, Mahmoud, blah, 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 blah. He gets right to here and then stands up, and as soon as he does, that dude in the adjacent corner cut him in half, literally. Belt-fed machine gun, 6 feet away, and folds him in half. He dumps right at the stairs, right at our feet. And you're like, holy shit. Run back out, more grenades on the roof, but now they're shooting out and around, so we're kind of pinned down because we don't know where they are. We don't have the high ground. We can't call in fire because we're in the building. Like, you know, I've got breaching charges prepped. My plan was I was going to sneak right up on top of the stairs because now I knew he's over here, and I'm basically going to take a C6 7-footer and roll it on top of itself like a ball and put the initiator in my hand on a 4-second delay, clack it off in my hand, and throw it like it's a charge. Because now it's hard to explain, but when you're inside of a concrete structure with a void there, you can feel the reverberation of the gunfire, and you can basically map it out. He's right there.
Yep.
If I could just put a charge right there, I can get him. So I knew it's a 3-foot throw, man. I can just overhand it, I can underhand it, I can get this dude. And cooler heads prevailed. They're like, nope, we're pulling back. We're going to pull back to where those Iranians were, and we'll fight them from there. But you can't get there because now they're shooting everywhere. We grabbed one of the new guys, and it's one of the coolest moves you got to see a new guy do. Had a Mark 46 as a saw. We're like, hey man, we want you to run out, bust a 180-degree turn, and I want you to rock the top of that roof. I want you to fully send. I want you to empty the whole 200-round box, and as you do, we're going to run underneath you. We'll get back there, and we'll leapfrog and bring you back with us. And he's like, I'm on it. Ready, set, go. We're throwing frags. He sprints out there, turns around, and the best Hollywood burst you've ever seen. And just loading. And we're all sprinting underneath him. We make it back. We tag him out. He collapses. Now we're on the roof. And something interesting that happened when I had that bolt lock is every 3 rounds I get bolt locked the entire night. Boom, boom, half the racket. Boom, boom, half the racket. Boom, boom, half the racket. And I don't know what's happening, but I don't have time to solve it. I try to swap out mags, and in that mag swap I cut my fingers. I'm like, God damn it. And for whatever reason, I picked up that mag and I threw it in my cargo pocket, put it in my mag, boom, 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 having to keep racking it over and over. We finally get back to the high ground. We clear the building, get on top of the roof, and now you can kind of see a little bit of advantage. We're only probably 5 or 6 feet higher than that building, and we're probably 100 yards separated, maybe a little more. And you could see bodies laying, still aimed at the thing, or aimed at the cupola hole. I'm trying to take shots at him. We think we're hitting him. His legs are moving, all this different kind of stuff. But you can't tell if you're hitting him. He's sandbagged around completely. There's a couple dudes up there, and they call in a danger close fire mission. You're dropping 25 mic, 45 or 40 mic, and they end up blowing these dudes up. See them blow off the building and all this kind of stuff. And I'm trying to get a head count the guys that have been fragged. You know, we got corpsmen on those guys, putting on tourniquets and bandages. I mean, most of the guys took frag to the crotch. I mean, just that's how it happens. It lands right in between the three of us, and you know, from belly button down, they're fragged up pretty decent. So we're kind of dealing with that. We're calling a medevac. We're trying to get those guys out. We all load up in the helos. We all lift off. So target secure. Everybody's dead. All the people that we pulled them off, and did a handover to somebody else. And we get back on the helo, and it's Jay Redmond, me, and a couple of dudes are sitting in the helo. And for whatever reason, we lifted off. I'm like, holy shit, we survived that thing. And I reach in my pocket and I grab out that mag, and it cuts me again. I'm like, son of a bitch. And I'm like trying to focus my nods, and I'm looking at it, and there's this huge thing in it. I'm like, it turns sideways. I can see it blown out the side. Like, what in the fuck is that? Put it back in my pocket. We go back to the debrief, taking off all your stuff. I mean, everybody's fully naked now. Just make sure you didn't catch frags. I mean, there's frags going everywhere. Mm-hmm. And when your adrenaline's going really high, you don't realize how hurt you are. I mean, do I have a hole? Have I caught anything? We're all doing the same thing. And I reach in my pocket and I pull out that mag, and there's a bullet straight through it that blew out the backside. Mm. And I'm looking at my kit, and I put it right back in where it was. I'm thinking back on the scenario. I'm like, that fucking dude shot me. Mm-hmm. That dude shot me in the goddamn chest. And then one of the guys is sitting there, and he's like, look how close it is to your cap. Back in the day, we used to cap in with a blasting cap into the actual charge, faster on the initiation. And the way I had that thing coiled, basically that cap was sitting right here, and that round passed in between the no-no, missed it, and hit that magazine. If it would have hit that cap, dishes are done, dude.
Millimeter here or there? Uh-huh. Damn.
Dishes are done. I mean, 32nd of an inch, half an inch. I mean, really, really close. Miss that, so we go back to the debrief. We're all talking about it. Dropped the mag on the table. It was an HK mag that was made for the 416s. Mm-hmm. So that base used to have a bunch of damn net guys on it, and a bunch of dudes from a unit. And they had a bunch of their extra mags there. So they were sending them out to everybody. Like, hey, we got all these 416 mags, try them out. And they did not meet with the Colt M4s. You had to shave down a little piece of them, or they wouldn't fully seat. And that was the issue, is nobody test fired them. A bunch of guys were running old mags. I don't even think P mags were out then. Whatever the old school aluminum mags was, most guys are running. And took them a round straight through that thing. It's like, holy shit. You're just kind of sitting back there just pondering on it for a little bit.
I was going to say. Just
how close that really was. And because you don't have the internet, you're not calling back. Weeks went by. Like, I mean, I haven't told anybody, but that story became wildfire on the East Coast. Everybody knew, because nobody had really been shot in the chest plate and told. And I think one other dude had taken a round through a wall. But outside of that, I mean, it's not a common occurrence to take rounds in chest plate, so that thing was going like wildfire. And one of the dudes who was at the team back home heard about it and called my parents and told them, hey, I don't know anything. All I know is DJ's been shot. And they held the phone.
Oh, man.
Yeah, dude.
Wow.
So, me not knowing that this thing is going viral back home, everybody knows about it. My parents know about it, and I haven't got a chance. So they've been in ghost town for, 2 or 3 weeks at this point.
I thought you were gone.
Yeah, they don't know anything. Yeah. Like, they're calling the command master chief, and he's not telling them. She's like, hey, I can't talk about it. Let me get more details. But, I mean, I'm here, dude. I'm good. Like, we're still going. We're on the very next night, and night after that, going over and over.
You said you were still alive.
So by the time I actually get on a phone call to him, I called him on the Iridium. My mom was bawling.
I bet.
And I was like, what's going on? And she's like, you okay? I was like, I'm fine. She said, we heard you got shot. I was like, no, man, I'm good. It didn't even register to me that they were talking about that. Mm-hmm. Because we had done so many things after that kind of failed in comparison.
It's old news.
Yeah, it was old news at that point. I was like, I'm not even thinking about that shit anymore.
Yeah.
So, they're freaking out. I was like, dude, I'm good. And that's when I started that false narrative of we're not doing shit. I was like, hey, we're on a lockdown, we're on a shutdown, there's bad weather coming in, we're not going to be doing shit for a little bit. So no news is good news. You don't hear anything, we're not doing shit here anywhere, you're not missing anything. That's not reality.
Mm-hmm.
The reality is we were going out every single night, and it was getting worse
Yeah.
and worse and worse. And we had quite a few on that deployment that were super sketchy. That very, very lucky to you made it through that. I mean, a bunch of homemade explosives right next to the door. Should have detonated, didn't detonate. We hit a bunch of houseborne IEDs, which was very dicey.
Mm-hmm.
We hit one of these things, and we had the Iraqis with us. We're tracking this guy. We show up, hit the house, ghost town. Nobody's there. Not an ounce of furniture, not a TV, not a lamp, not a nothing. I mean, it's barren. Like, what the fuck is this? You've been watching this target, and like, that's where they're at. And like, they're not here now. We're thinking tunnels. We're thinking this. And we look over in the center of this room, there's this huge discoloration on the floor. And you're looking at it and you're like, what the fuck is that? Just when you were about to go, I wonder what the fuck that is, one of the Iraqis pulls out a big hoolie and leans it over his head like he's about to drive in his concrete to break it up. And one of the EOD guys freaks him out. He's like, stop, stop, stop. He runs over. So you can imagine like an 8-foot diameter circle, and then a trail of fresh concrete that is running out the door.
Mm-hmm.
And he looks at it, looks at that hole, looks at that, and runs over to it and grabs wires and pulls it up out of the ground, and it is running to the house next door. And there's a dude standing on the fucking porch 150 yards away.
Just waiting
To clack us off. We call avalanche. Everybody blows out of every window. We go fucking sprinting. And I don't know if that dude was trying to clack it off, and the concrete had jammed his cell signal or whatever it was. We basically got to a position to cover, and we called in fire support, and they dropped in 105s on top of that. In the secondaries that lifted it lifted that entire building and threw it 50 feet in the air.
Wow.
It would have killed every single one of us, dude.
Secondaries being secondary explosions.
Yeah, so the bomb detonates, it hits the explosive they've buried in the house, and boom, the whole thing goes. So you can hear the initial boom, boom, and the whole thing lifts up, and you're like, fuck me. Like, I don't know if a sledgehammer or a pickaxe would have set that damn thing off, but hitting it ain't the move. And it's like, okay, now we get it. Now they're rigging the houses to blow. They're giving us false intel. They're building this false narrative knowing we're going to hit the house, and now they're just staging in a tree line, in a bush line, in a car, somewhere they can see it. And as soon as you get there, they're cracking it off. A bunch of guys have been hit by that one in the past. And it was our first time seeing it. It's like, okay. Like, oh, okay. Now we start getting different assets. Now we get a Marine Corps dog handler. Now we start incorporating the dog. Like, SEAL teams didn't have a dog program back then. At least we didn't. So we're borrowing their dogs. We're using them for bomb detection, a bunch of different stuff. So we're elevating our game every night, just getting a little more polished, a little more refined, over and over and over. The infills got longer, so we'd stop and we'd walk in for hours. Like, every time we bring in the Humvees, they hear us. Like, well, that's not good. Well, now we need people to drive the Humvees, so the assault package is small, and just all these different things. Just a constant learning process over and over. I mean, that was, dude, I think that night I took one that's just, I think it was my birthday. That's why they gave it to me.
20th?
Yeah. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, 21st. Yeah, something like that.
Nice. Could you go back to that day when you got hit in the chest plate after realizing what was going through your head? Like, I could have been dead. Did that change your perspective at all?
It, yes and no. It was kind of surreal because he got off so many rounds in such close proximity, and there were dudes behind me. So when you look back at the wall after everything was all said and done, before we pulled off target, I had a chance to take a glance, and you could see all the bullet holes.
It's like Pulp Fiction.
Exactly, Pulp Fiction. Boom, 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 boom.
Yep.
Hit everything but me. I mean, outside of the one in my chest, but just very fortunate it didn't hit anybody else.
Yeah.
Very fortunate he didn't shoot me in the chin, blow my face off. And yeah, I mean, lucky. But no, I didn't lose much sleep. What is interesting about that, if you ask Cole, he'll tell you too. I had that exact dream almost to a T about a week before, and I told everybody about it.
Premonition.
And the only difference was it wasn't a cupola, it was an internal stairwell. And when I wrapped the third landing, there was a dude right there in the corner and blasted me.
He got you in your dream?
Yeah, shot me in the face. But I mean, outside of it being a normal wrapping stairwell to a cupola, same thing. Same dude, same pants, same everything.
One of that, just that premonition prepped you for
maybe
what actually happened.
Maybe. But it's interesting because I hit him with white light.
Oh, you did?
No, we never practiced that. It just, the laser wasn't giving you enough in those conditions. So as soon as I popped up, you essentially saw feet, and then that was the process. Feet are moving straight up, and then gun was centered to his chest. By the time you saw it, rounds already flashing. Just bleachment. Fast you can run.
You said it was like 6 feet away, running up at you?
Yeah, by the time we started shooting him, he was close, dude.
Just goes to show, you know, the theoretical side and the actual side, how dynamic it can be at such close ranges that rounds can go off and still not hit anyone.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it just sneaks up on you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was interesting, man.
It's a hell of a way to celebrate your 21st birthday.
Yeah. That's good, though.
It's like a baptism by fire.
Mm-hmm.
And was that your first time engaging someone and knowing that you've got them? Or
I think we had a couple more that were a little bit longer distance, like 25 to 50 meters, like tree line stuff. But yeah, like that was the first one that was like
right here.
Right here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if that's lucky or unlucky, but that became like my norm for all my engagements. We're all super close.
Right. How was it working with the Iraqis?
Challenging.
You want to expand on that?
I'll say this: Iraqis love me, and I don't know why, but they do. Especially the dudes. They always want to take photos of me, and you know, I'd go over there and I'd train them. I teach them CQB. We go on a flat range. We do all this stuff, but they just wanted a paycheck, dude.
Yeah,
they just did. Like 3/4 of those dudes, they didn't want to do any of that. The other quarter of them were diehard true believers, and they wanted to really get after it, and they could train. And then there were a bunch of guys in there that you could tell had been fighting for a very, very long time. When you watch them put an AK in their hand, they were very good at it. Like, I wonder how many Americans you've killed before this moment. Because you try to do a vetting process, but there's no real way to vet them. And
yeah.
We've had a couple of really bad scenarios. And green on blue, they shoot us. I mean, we've had some really close calls with those guys, but then you get some guys that are just phenomenal. Like great dudes. If I could just pluck you out of this country and put you through some more advanced training, like I'd work with you. And very few and far between.
Was that ever a worry for you guys, the green on blue?
No, we've had multiple scenarios. I'm not going to get into the whole thing, but I know a lot of people have. Especially when guys started going to language school and they could speak Arabic. Some of the conversations they've had on a flat range were very, very sketchy, dude. And dudes adamantly discussing on who they're going to shoot first. Like on this next volley of fire, we're going to turn around and shoot them. Yeah, sketchy.
What happens to that guy?
That guy's no longer part of the program.
Yeah.
I mean, it's sketchy, man. Everybody deals with the same thing. You look over the course of how many green on blues have happened, it's more than you'd realize. It's not a perfect selection process. Trying to trust the locals, and they're just not paying off all the time.
You said a lot of them are in just collecting a paycheck. I mean, so one day they could be fighting Americans and they realize, oh, you know, I get paid more here. So that's cool. I'll switch sides just like that.
Yep.
Interesting.
I mean, they go on Ramadan and all this stuff. They go home for 2 weeks and they'll do something stupid and some army unit will wrap them up. And just, I mean, we had multiple times where guys on target, you get to the objective's house and there's photos in there, and one of the dudes in your assault team is in the photo. That's his uncle, it's his cousin, it's his dad, it's his brother. Like, you know, what the fuck? Like, did you know? So you had to really limit a lot of them. It'd be like me, you know, some foreign country invading here, and now I'm working for them, and now we're in Virginia Beach, and I'm like, I know exactly who that dude is. Oh, this house we're gonna hit, that's my uncle, or it's my brother, that's my friend, that's this guy. And now we can't tell you that, because as soon as we turn down the street, they're sending out text messages. Hey, they're coming for you tonight. Get the fuck out of there. So a lot of that would happen. You had to isolate them.
And there's no way to mitigate that.
I'm sure there's methods now. Back then, not really.
Yeah.
Nothing that legally you could do. You know, try to confiscate your cell phone, just kind of keep them in the dark. But then a lot of it, you needed them to know where we were going. Or as soon as you land on the helo, like, it doesn't take them long to realize where we are. So we know where we are.
Are these generally more the Terps or just
no? The Terps are good to go. The Terps are Those are all U.S. citizens. They get paid very, very well, and I've never had a bad experience with Turb, never. Yeah, they're contracted out by a company, and they do a very good job.
And they're you said they're Americans typically. Just
yeah, the partner force guys aren't. Those are all locals.
Those are locals.
Yeah, a lot of them are old Saddam regime guys, and everybody else who, police, and if you want to call them that. Now you just put them all on the team, give them some specialized training, some better weapons, body armor, helmets, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Teach them how to drive, teach them how to parallel park, and the whole thing. Yeah.
Was there ever a learning moment for you during that second deployment? Like a pivotal point where you learned something significant?
I learned the value of doing homework. Like, you get guys that get into a habit. Thank God I never got into it, but guys will get on these kicks where they're trying to dissociate with what they're actually doing. So they'll become a gamer, and Tony Hawk Pro Skater, Madden, like all these things, Call of Duty, or whatever the big thing was back then, Halo, whatever it's going to be, and they play video games all day long. And then you see the guys who are of a different mindset, who would grab a cup of coffee and a to-go box for chow, and they would go eat it in the jock and just watch ISR feed for the target we were going to hit. Or just walking through there one day, like they always had the best coffee. So you'd walk in and grab a cup of coffee, and you see 3 or 4 of the old guys in there. I'm like, what are you guys doing? This guy just watching. Watching what? Watching the ISR? For what? To see what they're doing? See where they're going, see where they're not going, where they're kicking soccer balls, where's the clotheslines out, the doors open inwards, outwards. And like, and you look down, they're all taking notes. I'm like,
yeah.
What are you writing down? He's like, 13 windows, 4 doors, cupola. Oh shit.
That's cool.
They're getting the mensurations for the walls. He's like, we need 4 sections of aircraft ladder. I'm like, why? Because 2 sections only gets us to 8 feet, and I got to get on top of the building. I need 4 sections. You're like, son of a bitch.
That's cool.
Oh, okay. And it's like, instead of just playing Call of Duty, just grab a to-go box and a cup of coffee and just go in there and just study. Just watch them. See how they interact with their kids. See if they walk to the neighbor's house. When do they come back? And then when you start getting like tactical questioning, now you become omnipotent. Now I know everything. Where'd you go at 8 o'clock? I didn't go anywhere. That's not true.
Yeah.
That's not true. You walked out of that house and came back here at 8:05. What were you doing over there? He's like, I've never been there. Really? Why'd you push your motorcycle over to his house? And now they know you know, and they're like, oh, shit. Like, I've been watching you all day. Dude, watching you all week, brother. And then the more and more you do, the more and more you realize that if you have the ability to sit there and do homework, you can be such a student of human modes. I understand if you're right-handed or left-handed, if you're walking with a limp, if you're not walking with a limp. Are those your kids? Are they not your kids? I understand it all now. You're like, okay. Like, what do the pros do? Pros do homework. Pros study game film. That's our game film. Sit there and watch. You got all the assets for a reason. Sit there and watch it. You're like,
yeah.
Okay, so instead of walking up to a target blind, like, I've got all these charges. What door am I going to breach? Like, they already know what door they're going to breach. They haven't used the backside of this house in 7 days. Why? I don't know. I'm not about to go to the backside of this door and blow it. Is it rigged to blow? Is it barricaded? Is it just a trap?
There's a reason.
I'm not doing that. That lesson's saved me multiple times over my career. Do the homework.
Is that the adage of logistics?
Yep.
Versus tactics.
Amateur stock tactics, professional stock logistics.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're over there arguing over high ready or low ready, and this is we're talking about, 13 windows at the southeast corner, blah blah blah. Like, oh, shit, okay.
And realistically, that's more fascinating than.
Oh yeah, dude. When you get to study people, then you understand it. You're like, I see why people get addicted to this.
Mm-hmm.
I get it. I understand now. I understand why people stalk people. I get it.
Yep.
I understand it. It's fascinating. People just watch you and you not know that I'm watching you. See everything you do.
Mm-hmm.
And like telltale, like weird things that wouldn't matter. Like ran after a dude with one leg. He's missing his left leg. Well, dude on this film is missing his right leg. Like, how do you know? Tell by the way he walks. Get on there, sure as shit, it ain't even the right dude. There's just another dude who's also making bombs who's missing his right leg, not his left leg. We are at the wrong dude's house. You question this dude, he's like, oh, you're talking about so-and-so. He lives right there. And he did. We grabbed this one-legged dude and walked right across the street and grabbed the right dude and took them both off target.
The right, wrong-legged dude.
Right? That's crazy. Yeah, I mean, just a little bit of homework, man, goes a long way. And then it just builds your confidence when you're on there. When you see at Vice, some dude hand you a piece of paper. He's like, hey, there's 9 9 dudes on target, 4 women, 7 kids. You're like, trying to imagine in my head like where they're going to be. I've been watching them for 7 days, and I'm like, there's 7 dudes on target, there's 4 women, there's this, there's that, there's all these kids. Mm-hmm. No one ever comes outside. Nobody. They walk in, they never leave. Why? They don't want you to see them. They're expecting ISR to be out there. They're expecting drones to be able to see you. They come inside, they don't move. Nobody comes outside. If they do, it's only at night. They get in the cars, they leave, they come back. Never outside. Like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Everybody's hunkered down now. So what are we going to do now? We're going to blow the front door. We're going to try to get in quiet. What time are we going to go? What time of the day? When do they power down? It's like, well, this one guy, he walked next door. We think he's having an affair with the neighbor's wife. Comes back, smokes a cigarette, flicks it with his right hand. So he's right-handed. He's having an affair with her. He comes over. He walks through his door every night at 11:15. He's done it 7 nights in a row.
Creatures of habit.
Well, we were going to plan on hitting the target at 11. Maybe wait till 2 a.m. Maybe he comes back in, kisses the old lady, powers down, goes night-night, and now we'll wrap his ass up at 2:30 in the morning. Let's do that. Sounds good to me.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Being a student, human moves.
I mean, from a psychological standpoint, too, if you pick up a dude, start asking him questions, knowing his habits, I mean, that's got to resonate all the way to the core of his bones to a point where he's just going to give it up.
Because he knows you know.
Yeah.
No, there's no reason to lie. And a really good guys at interrogation tell them that. There's no reason to lie. I already know everything. Tell me what I want to know. Start painting the picture. Yeah.
Have you ever played a part during your second deployment in terms of interrogation or information fact-finding?
Yeah. And a lot of that, you start off as like a scribe. So it'd be a senior guy who's taking some classes with the FBI or the agency or somebody, and like he's got his little formula down. You're basically just taking down notes. What's his name? How tall is he? Where's he from? Who's his wife? How many kids does he have? Taking it all down. It's like, how many kids are on this target right now? He's like, I don't know. You live here and you don't know how many kids you have? No. Okay. You start to peel back down you a little bit like, this dude don't live here. You go and you grab the old lady, bring her in, and you're like, who is that? She's like, I have no idea. Showed up here 3 days ago, took over the house. We don't know who he is. Oh, grabbed the kids. They confirmed the same thing as mom. Oh, okay. This dude's just some nefarious dude who just needed a place to hang out for a little bit and store all his weapons and ammo and whatever else. Yeah.
And they just let him live there.
No, they don't have a choice. Either that or he's going to kill you all. Seen that happen quite a bit, dude.
It's crazy.
Yeah, crazy.
Man.
Yeah, basically just rinse and repeat and did that same model the entire rotation. It was busy, dude. All day, every day. It was great. Had a nice gym. The chow wasn't terrible. But we were on Camp Fallujah with all Marines, so that has its own set of challenges. Administratively.
I was going to say, how did that work out considering that you guys are as structured as a Marine Corps? With all its little nuances.
You know, they like us because we're effective at what we do, but they hate us because we're unconventional. The guys running, like, you know, it's 2007. Guys weren't growing beards in, but everybody would run super long sideburns. We all had longer hair. We're wearing kind of whatever uniforms you want to. We're mismatched. We're wearing Army bottoms, Navy tops, just T-shirts, whatever else, and it drove them crazy. Like before cry precision was the thing, we made our own cries.
Yeah.
Right, cut off the sleeves, put them on T-shirt, just run around a T-shirt with a piece of Velcro sewn on, like doing the whole thing. And they used to get so pissed off because we didn't have enough vehicles to get us all to chow. There was never a bus at a set time. You're just on your own. And if I remember correctly, it was probably like a mile walk to chow and a mile back. And it is hot as shit, cousin. Iraq's miserable. Nobody wants to live there. It's terrible. And we would walk and it'd be so goddamn hot. But the Marine Corps wanted you in full uniform. So we would grab a top with your name tapes on it. You would put the damn thing on. It wouldn't have a trident on it. Just, you know, Navy, maybe a rank. We'd pull it off in your last name, whatever. And you'd walk the chow. And we were getting complaints that were coming down from higher that the Marine Corps was pissed off we weren't wearing brown T-shirts under our blouses.
Did you just put your blouse on?
Yeah. I'm like, dude, it's hot, man. So we'd strip off our blouses. We just hold them. We'd walk the chow with no shirt on. You know, trying to get some sun, trying to stay cool. And then as soon as we get there, we put it on, we walk in, we'd eat, we leave, come back out. But the tops are so nasty. They're basically big sweat rings. The whole back of them are solid white because you've been sweating so much. Mm-hmm. You know, some guys would op in them back and forth. I mean, I had a thing where I'd never wash my candies overseas. Just wouldn't do it. Bad luck. And one of the guys, Kyle Milliken, he has an ingenious thing. This is how fucking stupid team guys are. They were bitching at us so much that we all put on brown t-shirts. We're like, fine, fuck it. We'll put on brown t-shirts. That dude is walking into chow with no shirt on, and we're all looking at him. I was like, dude, you can just all jammed up. Just put a damn t-shirt on. He's like, I got one. What can you do? He's like, yeah, I got one. Like, okay. We get right to the front door, and he reaches into his pocket, and he pulls out a bib. It is the neck of a brown t-shirt that's cut into a triangle. He puts it on and tucks it in the front and walks through chow, and nobody said shit to him. Everybody in that platoon went back and took a brown t-shirt and cut the neck out of it and took a fucking triangle and shoved it in your pocket. That's how we went to chow. Every day you'd walk in, we get right out front, and you'd see them. They're all staring at us. We pull out this little bib and put it on.
They actually saw you guys do that.
Oh, yeah. What are you going to say?
I mean, it looks right.
You wanted a brown t-shirt. It's a brown t-shirt.
Yeah.
Just anything to where you didn't have to do what they said. Like, I'm going to let you think you won, but really, fuck you.
The Marines were just very conventional in that sense.
No, we used to trade them Copenhagen for gun parts and all this stuff. Like, do you remember the Surefire flashlight that had the built-in light?
Yeah.
That huge post thing? Mm-hmm. Well, one, those things suck. Surefire, I love you, but those things are fucking terrible because there's no way to control it. If you touch the pad, you get a white light AD. It goes off. And we didn't realize that. And the Marine Corps all got them issued. They had thousands of them, and they wouldn't let them put them on their guns. So they're just sitting there. And like, hey man, what do you guys got? We'll trade. I'm like, we got a couple hundred Benchmade knives. It's like, do you want to trade some Benchmade knives, some stateside Copenhagen for some Surefire lights? I'm like, done. My mom would mail me in like 60 cans of Copenhagen. Time we'd go over there and barter can of Copenhagen, Gerber tools, and the whole thing. But yeah,
that's cool. Funny.
Yeah, trading ammo and all that kind of shit.
Did you fight with the Marines in Fallujah?
I believe that push through Fallujah was the year before. I think it was the year before. No, I know a bunch of dudes who did, though. And they said it was absolute carnage.
Yeah.
Yeah, they said it was crazy. I ended up leaving with a guy that was a Marine recon guy who later went on the MARSOC, and he gave us a whole battle debrief. I mean, he was there for the entire thing, and it sounded insane. Insane in a good way, but it's broad daylight, so it's very sketchy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But. And that was during, was it Chris Kylan?
Yeah.
With those guys, I guess a year prior.
Yep.
Yeah.
We had a bunch of things that were kind of leading up to, we're about to rotate home. I think we're going to rotate home in, call it October 1. So we're right around the first part of September, and we're getting this mission set. It's going to drive us back into Karma. Same one where I took that round of the plate. We've been in it a couple times, and every time we do, we get in these crazy gunfights. And we're kind of gearing up for this last one, and we're going to land right on the X. So Kilo's right in front of the compound. We're going to sprint through. I'm the lead breacher. I'm going to be the one guy through the door, the whole thing. I'm mapping this thing out, studying everything. And me, Matt Roberts, Jay Redmond, my other buddy Jay, and being a JTAC, we had probably 6-7 guys in this fire team. And we have this one part of the assault force. These other guys have this other aspect. And that was one of the sketchiest things I've probably done, even though nothing happened, is landing on the X and blowing through that door and making that hard entry. You could see through the windows the room was completely lit, and because of everything else we knew, because of how many people we saw on that target. And that's one of the things on relying on the intel, is you saw them walking around that compound with PKs, with AKs, gearing up like they're gonna get some jihad on right now. So for us to land, if I remember correctly, my gun was slung and that charge was in my hand. I dropped off that helo just sprinting as fast as I could. And if I remember correctly, we didn't even touch down and dudes jumped out of the bird. I think we were probably 6 to 10 feet off the ground and dudes were already jumping out of the bird. And it's because you felt so vulnerable. Because you've seen guys on a roof, you knew what it was going to be. And, they shoot you out of the sky, you're fucked.
Or if they nighttime, right?
Yeah, or because we're in 60, so the sides are open, so they just hose into the bird. I mean, you're taking rounds. It's not going to be good.
Yep.
It would be super sketchy, and we dropped down and hit the front door, blew that whole thing, and made the assault bone dry. Nobody there. Nothing. You're like, nothing? how's there fucking nobody here? And we get a call over the radio. Like, we had squirters moving off to the east. Like, well, how many of them? He's like, unknown. At least 2. Like, okay, at least 2. How far? It's, 300 meters. You're like,
yeah.
What are you going to do? Jay looks over and he's like, my team will take it. Let's go.
Squirters are
enemy combatants that are on the move.
right.
They blow out a target, so you're flying into the target and they run out of the backside. So you can't just lift and shift the helo. You got to set down and you got to chase them.
Yeah.
And unfortunate for us, we had not learned the lesson of tall grass. Tall grass, vegetation, all of that. The Army guys have, CAG had especially, dealing with tree lines and using dogs and all the different tools to your disposal, and we just did not have that information at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So when we're moving around, basically we all patrol out, and we've got a gunship that's dropping a sparkle in this big-ass open field, just pulsing on the ground. You can see it off in the distance. We're making movement there. And you get to what looks like just this vast field of nothingness. But the grass is probably 6 to 8 feet tall. I mean thick, like cornrows, but not road. Just super thick grass. And we're right on the edge of it. So clean hard pack, a wall of grass, and then a sparkle in the middle of it.
Sparkle being
an IR beam from the gunship showing where this guy is.
Right.
You're looking at that. You're looking at everybody else. Okay. You guys ready? Like, forward. We all take a step in the grass. Take another step. And by 3 or 4 steps into it, we've all grabbed arms because it's so thick. When you can't see him, he's right here. That's how thick it is. I mean, it is thick, dude. If I remember correctly, I'll just say, 10 to 12 guys went on that initial push. And at some point, we're walking down to just, if you just imagine Jesus had a flashlight and it's just pulsing on the ground, that's what it looks like. Mm-hmm. Nobody else can see it, just you on night vision. And you're looking at the thing and you're getting closer and closer, and it's getting quieter and quieter, and he's walking on, he's like 25 feet, 15 feet. Mm-hmm. He's whispering to you, and you've got it in your ears, and you're like, 10 feet. You can just feel it, just boom, 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 boom. 5 feet. Third guy from the left, you're standing on him. 1, 2, 3. And you look over, and everybody's gone on this side. It's basically just the 5 of us now. Ain't nobody here. There's nobody here. Mm-hmm. That grass was so thick that basically we all moved up. We stopped right at the sparkle, and these guys continued to move, and we lost them in the tree. That's how thick it was. So now we've got the sparkle in between all of this, and Jay calls the audible. He's like, hey, there's a flat patch out there. It looks like a football field. There's no terrain over there. There's no grass. We're going to get out of this brush. We'll re-attack from this side. So we got the sparkle in between. These guys are still maneuvering, and we turn, and now we walk. We get right to the edge, and we step out. And now we're in this open field as far as you can see in all directions except for this nightmare. And we're trying to get a head count. We're down 5 dudes. Like, where are they? Mm-hmm. We're trying to find them. Nothing. And we're standing right on the edge of this ditch, probably 15, 20 feet back from it. And we're actually going to bring Maddie in here, and me and him are going to debrief this at some point. Yeah. Because I have never talked to him about that night. I've never talked to anyone about that night. Not Jay Redmond, none of them. They got 2 shot up, and then we all split. So we've never actually had a formal debrief, and I'd love to have one to get, because this is all my interpretation of what happened from my vantage point. So this isn't gospel. This is what I remember. Right. We were standing there trying to negotiate on how we're going to go back into this, because ISR is saying he's right there, but he's not. What the fuck we've been chasing? Is it a dog? Is it a goat? Like, is there something that just ran out in the field? Now we're chasing this dude? Like, where is this guy now? But now we've got those guys. We're trying to recall them. And what had happened was, on that patrol in, we all pushed to Assault 2. All these guys didn't. So now you break comms. They're on Assault 1. We're on Assault 2. And we're trying to bounce back and forth, and we can't get them. For whatever reason, now maybe they pushed too far back. Those guys ended up doubling back and coming back to us, to the original point. We've already moved off over here, and now we're all facing back this way. Mm-hmm. Now we're in a Polish ambush. We still got all the assaulters, 300-400 yards away back in the main compound. We're trying to find this guy. And the way I remember it is Jay is just in front of the ditch. Luke the corpsman, Matty Roberts, Jay the JTAC, myself and the Terp, and there's basically 3 abreast, the Terp and me. I'm standing directly behind him. And as I recall it, I could have sworn it was Jay. I think I've heard a different story that it was the corpsman. He yelled, "Hey." And in my mind at that moment, he was yelling at the other assaulters like, "Hey, we're over here." The moment he said, "Hey," we all got shot. And that dude was basically in that tree line, closer from me to you. He was just laying down on the prone with the belt fed. And just, "Hey," and he shot everybody. Hit Jay, hit the corpsman, hit Maddie. They all dumped. Me, the JTAC, and the Terp all basically starburst. The JTAC ended up jumping probably 10 feet behind me. There was a single tractor tire. I mean, like a 33-inch tire. I mean, not a huge tire, but that big. Mm-hmm. Just sitting in the middle of the field, just sitting there. He jumps behind it, and I sprint to the left. There's a row of trees. So, big wall of grass, a couple rows of trees, and then empty nothingness. I run to the tree, and as I'm doing it, it felt like I was running on top of M80s. All the ground underneath me was just exploding, just everywhere. And I'm just running as fast as I can. It's not a far run, but I dive behind this tree. And essentially what had happened is you had that guy, multiple guys sprinted out, and one of those dudes stopped on this side, and they were going to try to get us into an ambush and contact us from multiple sides. So when I dove behind that tree, either that dude or this dude completely opened up on top of me. And that was definitely a surreal moment because I was completely fucked. Like, you couldn't do anything. Again, 0% illume. You couldn't see anything. Nothing. And I'm laying on my back. My head's basically against a tree, but I'm flat on my back in dirt. It feels like kids are just throwing sand at me. I mean, it's fucking everywhere. You can't move. And I'm afraid to lean my legs over it. It feels like they're shooting everything but me. Like, you can't move. And at one point, I rolled over my head, and I could just see Jay laying behind that tractor tire. I could see Jay Redmond off to the corner, crawling around like on all fours. I could see Maddie there, trying to stand back up. I could see the corpsman. He got shot through tib fib, really bad shot. He's yelling. Maddie's trying to drag him back, and I'm trying to determine, like, I have an out. It ain't a good one, but it's better than being fucking stuck right there. And I yell at the JTAC. I'm like, "Jay, I've got an out. Out this way. Come to me. Come to me." I'm screaming. And he said, "Fuck you. Come to me." I'm like, why the fuck do you want me to come to you? And I was, in that moment, it must have been like Marcus Luttrell. Like, I just didn't want to die alone. Mm-hmm. Like, I would rather just get up and run back into that hail of bullshit and get killed with all those dudes than I would to be the lone survivor. I mean, get to make a move. And he looked at me again. He's like, "Send it." And I got up and I ran as fast as I could straight for that tire. And I did some sexy Navy SEAL slide, ate shit, I can roll behind that tire with him, like trying to catch my breath. And it feels like a continuous Hollywood belt. And the whole time rounds are just skipping between these dudes. They're trying not to make any noise. And that's when you see Maddie stand up. He grabs the corn by the back of the plate carrier and is dragging him back. And then a big burst. And Maddie falls down again. Stands back up, grabs that dude again and drags him back, gets shot again, falls down again, gets back up and is dragging him back again. Jay's on all fours and he yells something. I can't remember what he said, but I remember he leaned up and looked over, and right when he did, that guy shot him in the face. And it spun him. It looked like a wrestling move. His whole body spun so fast, he hit the fucking ground, and he was dead. 100%. Died 30 feet, like dead. Doesn't move, doesn't say a fucking word, nothing. Maddie's trying to drag him back. And if I remember correctly, the JTAC said, "Fuck it, I'm going for Jay." And I said, "I'm going for Matt." He got up and ran out to Jay, which was a farther push than I had to go because Matt had been actively working him back. He ran to Jay. I went to Matt, basically grabbed Matt and the corpsman as they were pulling him back and assisted him. And then we just stacked him up. And so in behind this tractor tire, laid the corpsman, laid Maddie, laid me. He brought back Jay, and we just all stacked us up in a row and basically just laid on top of him. And it's so surreal because you do so much live tissue training with the pigs and the goats and all that stuff, and working through tourniquets and blowout kits and by feel and what's Curlex and what's Quick Clot and all this different shit. And you always have some sort of light, and now you don't. You don't have anything. You can't see shit. And at one point I said to the dudes, I was like, "Dude, I got to break out a fucking red lens." And you would have thought I was the Antichrist. Like, I can't see how bad this is. Like, this is not a movie. This is not a training scenario. Like, I can't, you're so fucking shot up, I can't do anything for you. Like, there's no way for me to help you. And when Matty got shot, he got shot in the arm, and it snapped his humeral, or his humerus bone, and it flipped over his shoulder. So it looked like he had a nub. And in his mind, he thought he had a nub. And you could tell because when he was looking on the ground, I'll have to ask him, I'm pretty sure he was looking for his arm. Just the way he got shot, when it smacked him, it flipped over his shoulder, so he can't see it. He can't feel it. The whole thing is numb. So we drag him back. I'm not really concerned about the corpsman. It's a lower leg injury. I don't have to even understand how bad it is, but I know how bad the humerus is. I know how bad that brachial artery is, and I know he's hit it. I lift up his shirt, and this shit sprays out. It looked like a super soaker and just poured into my fucking mouth. And I don't want to say I panicked, but I knew how bad it was. Like, this dude's got seconds, dude. And I know he's pissed, and I don't really fucking care. If I remember correctly, I drove my elbow into his arm to try to stop some of the bleeding while I'm trying to work on blowout kits. I'm trying to tear these things open. I'm trying to get to it. And he kept telling me, quick clot. Give me quick clot. Give me quick clot. I'm not giving you fucking quick clot. Because it's such a bad wound. The exit wound inside of his bicep was that big. The whole thing is just blown out. I mean, it's gnarly. It looks like an exit wound on a 50 couch. The whole thing is out. And you can just watch his shit spraying out of him. And he's bleeding out quick. I get a tourniquet on, and I start cranking it. And as you start to crank it, he's screaming. He's telling me to fucking stop. And you can feel his bones cracking inside it. And if I don't get the bleeding stop, you're fucking dead, dude. What do you want me to do? I'm cranking this thing, and he's still asking for quick clot. And I get sick of arguing. I was like, fine. And I put that quick clot in my mouth, and I dumped it on him. And he's like, oh, thank you, thank you. I never even opened that fucking package. Never even did it. Because I was confident I could stop the bleeding. I was confident I could get him on the helo. And what I didn't want them to do was have to cut his goddamn arm off if they could save it. And that's what all the medical guys would tell you. Like, that quick clot, depending on where you put it, it degrades all the tissue. They got to cut it all out. And, like, he's such a big dude. And not to be superficial, but, like, he's got such a big arm. And if you cut all of that out, like, his life is forever kind of changed. And I didn't want to have to do that unless I absolutely had to. So I held off, packed it with gauze, doing the whole thing, trying to comb his body. We get a tourniquet on the corpsman. When they rolled Jay Redmond over, I focused my night vision and I looked at him. And it was one of those weird scenarios. We always talk shit. If I step on an IED, it blows my legs off. It blows off my junk. Just shoot me in the fucking head and get it over with. We always say stuff like that. That was one of the moments that I would have said, shoot me. In theory, that's one of the scenarios. If I look like this, put me out of my fucking misery. I don't think he realized how bad he looked. To this day, I don't know if he ever saw himself uncleaned up. Like, after they sewed him up, it looked like the Predator. No nose. The whole thing was open up. All his teeth, right? He's got teeth sticking in his fucking jaws.
Was he coherent the whole time?
Yeah. Like,
was he able to speak?
He was, and I think that's because the swelling hadn't gotten to him yet. It shattered his jaw. Knocked all his teeth out, but he's like, get my helmet. Get my fucking helmet. I think his helmet got shot off, or it fell off. Something happened. He's telling guys to get his helmet. Jay being the dude Jay is, trying to be accountable for all his gear and equipment before anything else. Like, I don't leave my gun on the battlefield. I don't leave my helmet on the battlefield. Don't let me die like this. Like, all this other shit's going through his mind. How's everybody else? And, we're working on him. And the whole time, this dude is just shooting us. I mean, I think helmets are getting shot off. Strobes, I mean, like, it's on you and you can't stop it. And you got to remember that because we're facing the enemy this way and we have blue forces directly on the backside, we can't shoot back. You can't see him. And as much as you want to say in that moment you'll just shoot at the muzzle flash, the thought of shooting one of my own dudes and pulling 5.56 out of him was something I was not willing to do. So most of the guys, I think outside of the corpsman, no one shot. You couldn't. It was too close in proximity. Too many guys were shot. And the only thing you could do was clear it with the airspace.
And how far again was this guy from you guys? From the tire, would you say?
No more than 12 to 15 meters.
That's insane.
Not even close. Real close. And you can't move. You can't go left, can't go right. I mean, we're all stacked on top of this thing. And the JTAC is trying to call for a danger close fire mission. And he's pleading with him. He's like, hey, I need this, I need that. And just keep denying it. It's like, nope, can't do it. Can't do it. It's too close. It's too close. And he's like, if you don't do it, we're going to fucking die anyway. And he gave his initials. Juliet Alpha, send it. He's like, all right, we're going to walk it in. Now we've switched the fire so you can hear them. They start a long way out. They shoot one for windage to see where it's at because the winds change. It's a 40 mic coming from, whatever altitude they're flying at.
So 130 Spectre?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's shooting 40 mic, 25 mic. So they shoot one for windage to see where it's at. They do the correction. They're flying a left-handed pattern. And then try to start walking them in. And that first one, it felt like it was 3 miles out. I'm like, oh, that ain't going to work. This dude's still shooting at us. And slowly but surely started walking them in closer and closer and closer. And you could tell when they would get around the orbit that was directly over top of us because you would hear boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom. And the whole thing would go and it would fucking vibrate you off the floor. It's like you're just trying to hold these dudes down. And the way we stacked them up was basically tractor tire. I believe it was me, Maddie, the corpsman. I'm kind of presenting plates, trying to lay on top of them. Jay's laying on top of Jay. I think the turp had already blown off to a tree. And now we're just waiting. Slowly but surely, inch by inch, foot by foot, just bringing it a little bit closer, a little bit closer, a little bit closer. And then all of a sudden you hear it. Boom! Ah! More of that, more of that. Ah! And now he's fucking screaming. Still hounding him over and over and over. And it was such a sigh of relief to know that that fucking dude was going to die an agonizing death that you didn't want it to stop. You wanted to get this dude dead so you could get these guys on the helo and fly out, but you wanted to kind of savor the moment for a little bit. Like, let everyone see this. This is exactly what's going to happen to the rest of you every time you fuck with us. But, I mean, they're dying. I mean, you got to assume that the fact that Jay's alive right now is a sheer miracle, but because his wounds look so much worse than everybody else, you imagine that he's going to die at any minute. Maddie, I know, is in a super bad spot. I don't know how bad Luke's injury is on his leg, but we've put on tourniquets on him. We're trying to do pressure dressing. We're trying to do all the stuff, trying to get it calmed down. We ended up bringing the other assault force. Right after that dude, we essentially thought he was dead. We called in the rest of the guys. We called in a black HLC. They'd land right behind us. We'd load all the dudes on. I'd been through TCCC, like the live tissue course, probably 4 times at that point. And I felt really comfortable with that. And we didn't have another corpsman on site. I jumped on a helo with him and flew back. And that's when you really got to see it. The crew chief that was on that bird, I wish I could fucking meet him. He was so good. That medic that was on there, those dudes flew that helo faster than any other bird I've ever been in my life. It pulled my helmet off my head. It snapped the buckle. Like, it was sucking us out of the airplane. It was so fucking fast. And that's exactly what we needed. But he was in and out of those med bags so fast, checking us out and, doing drag checks on Maddie and all this stuff. And I remember at one point I'm leaning over and I'm working on the corpsman or on Jay or on something. Maddie's screaming at me. And you can't hear shit in his helos. And I was like, what? He's like, get your fucking gun out of my leg. And I look down and my barrel is shoved into his leg and he's been shot. And I missed, like, he'd been shot so bad you don't realize how bad it is. And yeah, through and through on the thigh. I think he took one through the calf too. His arm's blown to shit. So we're trying to clean all those things up. They're not life threatening, but you've been shot with a PKM from 10 feet away. I mean, it's not a good thing. So we're trying to clean all that up. And we land in, I think, Baghdad, wherever it was, and the crash units come on there. They're grabbing all the guys. And when we go to lift Maddie off, his arm slumps over and it crashes. And the doctor grabs it and lifts it up and lays it on Maddie's arm. And he puts his other hand on it. He goes, if you want to keep this fucking arm, don't let go of it. And I think I kissed Maddie on the forehead. The rest of the other dudes, we pushed him in the crash. And I jumped back in the helo and we flew back because I thought we were still going to continue this assault. Like, there's no way we're wrapping this fucker up now. Everybody's getting the business now. We jump back in. They fly me back to Camp Fallujah and drop me off. Okay. There's a bus that picked me up or whatever. And I drove back into the debrief and everybody's already kind of cleaned up or whatever. And when I walked in, it was like they saw a ghost. I was covered in blood. From my mouth, my face, my pants. I think I still have the pants somewhere. Boots, everything I had completely soaked through. And it was so surreal because I thought they were all going to die. And nobody knew how bad they were. Nobody else had seen them. It was just me. And they're going through the whole debrief, everything that went down, and I'm the only one who was there outside of the JTAC and actually telling me the narrative. So we're trying to piece this thing together. Obviously, we're emotionally charged.
Yeah.
Temperature's running hot. And one of the coolest things that's ever happened to me happened that night with Mark Crampton. God rest his soul. He was my command master chief and buds, and one of the greatest dudes you've ever fucking met. And unfortunately, we lost him to mental health not too long ago. But he was our, we were working under him in another West Coast officer. And we're sitting there in the debrief, and I mean, I'm covered in this shit. And we're sitting there for the debrief, and I'm sure I've got some 1,000-yard fucking stare. I'm just kind of coming to grips with everything that's happened. And I snapped this big tin of Copenhagen, pulled this big lip rat, and I'm looking at my hands. I mean, it looks like you just dumped them in a vat of blood. I threw this big-ass fucking thing, and I'm just sitting there kind of white-walled, and he leaned over and, let me get one of those things. I was like, oh, Master, if you don't want one of these, and he's like, the fuck I don't. And that tin of Copenhagen, he shoved his hands inside it and took the biggest fucking dip you've ever seen. He's like, I'll take that one with honor. Slapped the tin back and slapped it on. And went back and we finished the debrief and all that. And we didn't know, because there's such a gap. When you drop guys off in a different foreign hospital, it's not like you have a direct line of communication. You got to get your medical personnel to call the lead medical officer. They got to call the crash unit. They got to find this guy. They got to get status. Where are they at? Where are they at in surgery? Are they going to fucking make it? How bad is this? How many times they actually all get shot? We don't know all of that. And a lot of that's because they were shot so many times. I mean, you can't tell. I mean, I think Jay took one in the face, a couple in the thigh, side plates, double stacked the elbow. I mean, just shot multiple times, and we don't know if they're going to make it. It's right around September 11th. I think we launched on September 11th, and I think this happened after midnight, so maybe on the 12th, maybe the 13th, somewhere in around there. And we get done with the debrief, go in there, and I drop kit, and I'm kind of standing in the ready room, just kind of in disbelief of how this deployment is going to end for us. Because we had so many close calls, and the OIC already told me, he's like, I'm getting you out on the first fucking rotator route. I mean, probably 7 or 8 super close ones I probably shouldn't have made it through, and he's like, you're running a razor's edge, man. You got to get the fuck out of here before something bad happens to you. And I'm like, I'm not going anywhere. And like, you don't have a fucking choice. So that's already being kind of discussed before I even take a shower. Where I walked in, and the showers in Iraq are suboptimal, if you can imagine, shower trailers, and they don't drain worth a shit. And I remember in there taking a shower, and just the amount of blood that was coming off of me and was filling up in that shower, draining me past my ankles, and just nothing but blood. And one of the older guys who I really, really looked up to. Oh, fuck. Fuck. He comes in on a shower. I'm the only one. Everybody else has already showered. Comes back and he rips open a fucking shower curtain. I'm standing there, soaping my fucking hair, naked as a jaybird. And he looked at me. He's like, how you holding up? Not fucking good, man. He's like, get fucking dressed. Let's go. Went on a solo walk. 20 minutes, went out and ate chow, just me and him, and he's like, talk me through it. I'm like, a lot of it was Maddie. I was like, dude, I look up this dude so fucking much. Like, did I fuck him up? Did I fail him? Could I have done better? Could I have done this? Could I have done that? And at that moment, it was exactly what I needed. I needed a little bit of positive reaffirmation that what you did was right. I had a hard time grasping with not shooting back. And I mean, he said it then. He's like, that's probably the best thing you could have ever done was not shoot back. Could you imagine what would have happened if you would have shot one of your dudes? Could you imagine what you'd be thinking about right now? He's like, the fact you didn't shoot shows the most tactical patience I've ever fucking heard of. To be in a contact, the closest danger close fire mission, and didn't shoot because you knew there were blue force on the backside to have that restraint. He's like, that's a fucking super cool move, man. And he's like, there ain't very many people who would have been able to sit there and not do that. They would have been overcome by events and just dump a mag into that bush and probably kill one of their buddies. And yeah, man, came back, cleaned everything up, packed up all my shit, packed up all Maddie's shit, Jay, Luke, everybody else. And they had me out on the first rotator back. I land in Virginia Beach. I jump straight in my car and I drive straight to Portsmouth Naval. And they'd already been back there. I think they probably had like a 4 or 5 day head start. So they land in Germany, they'll get cleaned out. And I roll into Portsmouth Naval, and there's this sweet little lady sitting outside of this room, and I'm walking down. I'm just scanning. Where's Roberts at? And this sweet little lady sitting on the bench, and she looks at me, and she's like, you must be DJ. bawling. And Maddie's mom.
Oh,
Fuck. Did a whole thing. I walked in there, and he's such a funny dude, and he had such a good response. I mean, he covered it up well, but big external fixators. I mean, he shot the shit. His beard's growing out now. I mean, there's still grass in his hair. They haven't even given this dude a bath yet. I mean, he's got a gnarly infection he's kind of fighting through. And I walked through, and I was like, "How you doing, buddy?" He's like, "You're not being a pussy, are you?" And I was like, "No." He's like, "Good, give me a shake." And he's trying to piss in his bottle. He's like, "Give me a shake." Because it's me. I lean over and he's like, "I'm just fucking you, faggot." I'm like, Jesus Christ, man. Just, trying to make light of the humor. And Jay wasn't there. He was in, I believe he was in Walter Reed doing some major reconstructive surgery, but we had Luke there too. Got to see him. And essentially, I'd make a trip. If I didn't make it every day, I made it every other day. And I always said to Maddie, "What do you want?" And he wanted chicken salad from Taste Unlimited. They used to do it with these grapes in it. I'll never forget
those are
it.
good.
And he's like, "I want chicken salad from Taste Unlimited." And I'd bring that fucker chicken salad from Taste Unlimited every single time I walked through there. And it was just really cool to see how much I respected him, how good he was at work, how good all the dudes were. But then, to watch him rebuild up from that, like not let it consume him, but really just carrying on that same legacy he's had this entire time. Like, just what a badass fucking dude. He just was. Like, that was the most heroic thing I've ever seen in my whole career. That moment right there, being shot multiple times, still pushing forward, still on the offensive, still dragging dudes back, getting shot again, still dragging them back, get shot again, still dragging them back, just never fucking quitting. So that's why when Brad Gary was on Sean Ryan and he was telling that story about Maddie, "I ain't gonna quit. You fucking know me. Just stick with me." It's like, when I heard him tell that story, it's like, that's the fucking Matty Roberts that I know. Mm-hmm. It's like, I've seen it in real time. I've seen it from 10 feet away. And it sticks with me a lot. I try to compartmentalize and not really think about it too often, but, there's moments that I avoid in life so I don't have to relive that scenario. I stay the fuck out of tall grass. I don't like cornfields. I don't like haunted houses. I don't like any of that shit because it brings me back to that moment in time and I have to relive it. But there's some beautiful things over that deployment that night in particular, like how far people are willing to go for you. Like, was that his best friend? No. Did it fucking matter? Not a bit. You would have thought that was his kid. Right? Like, you want to see superhuman feats. There's one right there. Like, Jay, the JTAC, the corpsman, just everybody and their level of commitment. If you could just capsulate that and just spoon feed it to people, you could produce better patriots. Easily the most humbling thing I've ever seen. I mean, I did a lot of shit after that, and that still to this moment, that was that's kind of the catalyst for the whole thing. When you see people do that, it really gets you to buy in. Then all that ideology I had this entire time, it just reconfirmed it all. It is worth it. This organization, this culture is worth it because people will do that for you. It's fucking beautiful to see, man. But it is not the norm. Like, that dude is a unicorn. And yeah, always holds a very special place in my heart. He's a fucking badass. But it's hard coming home, man.
Yeah.
Had a girlfriend at the time, and that didn't go over too well. I came back home, and I was still running around Fallujah. I couldn't shake it.
Yeah.
And I think slowly but surely, you hear about the guys with like shell shock and PTSD, and I'm not saying that I had any of that shit, but there was something very different about me when I came back from that deployment, vice my very first one. And then it exponentially got worse the more rotations I did.
Yeah.
You got to learn how to compartmentalize and wall it all up and block out the bad and only take in the good. And yeah, that was a really good one. I probably learned more on that deployment about myself and about other people than I have on any other one. It was great to see. So glad he made it, dude. Yeah.
Oh.
So yeah, I mean, came back home. That was mid-September. Home for 2 weeks and started again. And now we just don't have Maddie.
Yeah.
Yeah, multiple surgeries. The corpsman ended up coming back. Jay was in surgeries for years. Yeah, just a long, long recovery time. So it's a lot of stuff I talk about with guys now, like especially we do force on force. You've seen it. Guys are playing paintball and they take one the inside of the thigh and they just keep fighting through it. Let's talk about what that really looks like, dude. Like you take an AK round to the thigh, 45, a 9mm, whatever else, it hits the bone. What do you think is going to happen after that? Or do you think you just wrap a a tourniquet around, you just keep fighting. That's how that works. Like, how long do you think the recovery time is? What if you get a bone infection? Yeah. Then what? Are you ever going to be able to do this job again? Are you ever going to have the confidence to do this job again? Like, that's a hard thing to come back from. And Vernon says it best, man. Mental scar tissue lasts twice as long as physical scar tissue.
Oh, yeah.
That's a hard thing to come back from. The very last op you ever did, you got shot 3 times? Oof. What about this? What about that? It's like, the easiest way to do it is just get back up and do it again. That's why no breaks. Like, we had opportunities. You know, do you want to go to training for a little bit? Do you want to do this? Like, no. Nope. I'm going to screen as fast as humanly possible. Because now I'm bought in. Like, now I'm committed. Now I've seen it all. Like, okay. Haven't seen it all, but in your mind at that age, 21 years old, like, I've seen enough to know that I really, really like this job. And I really don't want to do anything else. And it just reconfirmed everything I ever thought. This is it for me. Yeah, very thankful those guys made it. Very thankful for the lessons and the opportunities we got. But very lucky.